misty watercolor memories of the way we were. Scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind, smiles we gave to one another for the way we were. Can it be that it was all so simple then? Or has time rewritten every line? If we had the chance to do it all again, tell me, would we? May be beautiful and yet once too painful to remember. We simply choose to forget. So it's laughter we will remember. Whenever we remember the way we were. The way we were.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you out on the live stream, good morning and welcome to you. Please feel as if you are sitting in the seats amongst us. Welcome to everybody else. One of the wonders of my world, ladies and gentlemen, in amongst the sadness, is when we expect a certain number. How many people are going to be at our funeral? And you look around, and even though it's a bit higgledy-piggledy because of our catering here a bit later on, many more people than we thought have turned up, which illustrates in the paper notice, Elsa, that loved by many. Here it is in obvious form. It's wonderful. It's just wonderful. We gather today to mourn the passing of Graeme Buckingham. We gather to say our final farewells, and we gather to pay tribute to Graeme's life of 85 years. Now, on any level, today is a sad day, but I say to you all, isn't today a time to gather together as we are, as family and as friends, to celebrate, to actually celebrate those 85 years? The real sadness of today, you see, is in Graeme's passing, not in the wonder of his 85 years. And there's people here this morning that have known this man, since the 60s, I was told. He was born in Barnstable. We might hear a bit about that later on, but he's a lifelong Barnstalian. He is. And please tell me if I'm wrong, but I have a sense that Graeme, he lived life to the full, yes, and enjoyed his life. I mean, the photo on the Order of Service shows a man who I would say didn't take himself too seriously, with his jaunty skipper's cap, big aviator sunnies, a stubby in his right hand, if you can see to the right of the dash, and the steering wheel of a big cruiser in his left hand. Now, I think that's a brilliant image, And guess what? It's almost heaven, isn't it, for blokes? Out on the water, breeze streaming through our hair. Yeah, Graham's still got hair under that skipper's cap. He was liked by everybody. He could make people talk. He had that brilliant thing about him that just chatting, and he could draw people out. He was very easy to be around. And at the same time, Graeme worked very, very long hours. Elsa said the other day that he gave his all to his clients, and I know that there'd be quite a few of you here today that have known of Graeme's expertise. He loved State of Origin, ladies and gentlemen. For us that don't follow it too much, that's that funny rugby game up in Queensland and New South Wales. And he was a New South Wales man, and yes, okay, brilliant big comeback to win by 2 points. So that's a win. That's a win for Graeme. We know that he loved boats and shooting and fishing, and there was a suggestion that he may have been one of the initial members of the Bairnsdale Pistol Club, way back. He played golf, and about that time I said to Elsa, this man is an outdoors man. He may have used figures to look after his clients, but his heart was outdoors. He loved his sports cars. I said, Elsa, how many cars did Graeme have? And she said, I couldn't count them. Just have a look at the gold Mercedes-Benz Sports. Now, I don't know much about Benzes, so I can't give you the exact designation. Needless to say, it's a convertible, and it's gold, and it was bought by a Chinese gentleman eventually who, because of Chinese beliefs, that gold is the golden coin. So there it is. So imagine that once again, hair through the hair, wind through the hair, just brilliant. Graeme would help anybody. Graeme sadly was an Essendon supporter. And you know what? I left a line here to determine who was going to win last night. And guess what? No, Essendon didn't. They came second. And yeah, I noted this morning very early, I said, sorry Graeme, the Blues may have won, but not so much the Dons. Graeme also served his community through his almost lifelong career in Freemasonry, and Ron and Joe are going to conduct a Freemasons tribute later in the service. And ladies and gentlemen, I think the fact that Graeme's now at peace and released from the cancer that he's been suffering, it's been part of his life for some time, and it should bring us comfort. Sadness, as I said earlier, undoubtedly, but comfort at knowing that Graeme is released from it. And today's not only about reinforcing the many, many memories that we each have, but about giving thanks for the blessing of having had Graeme in our lives for all these years. And for Elsa and Kylie and Pete, and Jenny and Chris, and Eliana, and all the extended family, our thoughts are with you. Our thoughts are very much with you. So please, ladies and gentlemen, bring back your favourite memory of Graeme and hold it close. And I am going to share with you, if I can find it, where are we? Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. Time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to rebuild. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them up again. A time to embrace and a time to refrain. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. And I know that there is nothing better for men to be happy and to do good while they live, that everyone may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all his toil. This is the word of God. And now, Peter and Kylie and Jen and Chris, come up and share your dad's memories, please.
Graeme Edward Buckingham, born 9th of December 1940 to Avis and Eric Buckingham. He was the youngest to his sister Joyce. Dad attended the nearby Bruthen Primary School. As a child, he got up to the usual mischief, including having fun with bows and arrows, playing cowboys and Indians, also had his prized collection of Shanghais. On one such occasion, Dad had nearly taken out a friend's eye with this contraption. Police were around to collect this Shanghai, but clever Dad had one of his faulty ones that was passed on to the police. So no one was the wiser that he still had his treasured Shanghai in his possession. Enjoyed his Boy Scout days in the 50s and attending many of the jamborees. Started his working career at Presney Brothers in Sale around the age of 13. Was enthusiastic to pump fuel from the get-go, but had to start with cleaning windscreens and sweeping floors. Once the manager was happy with the standard Dad provided and proved he could do more, he then progressed to the fuel distribution. He went to the Sale High School, completing his matriculation. Received his bronze medallion during his high school years. Army Reserves, National Service, Artillery, late 50s to 60s. At times he was in charge of the enviable latrine duties. Was one of the founding members of the Bensdale Rifle Club in the 60s and Pistol Club later on. Enjoyed regular competitions with excellent target results. Worked at one of the local banks in Sale before discovering he was red-green colourblind, which led to a change of career. Dad was often away with beginning his public accountancy correspondence education in the 60s. Trained with a firm in Sale while learning the skills. Once fully qualified, he set up his first practice in a spare room at the family home he helped build in Dreffman Street, Bensdale. A few years later, an office a few steps away from the house was established. A thriving business was taking off. Dad proudly created a successful accountancy software learning program, also helped with financial planning. An office where, although handing over your figures for assessment was done in a very professional way, there were chats, jokes to be told, and a genuine interest with all clients. A cuppa and a sandwich was on offer too. He certainly was a popular bean counter around town. Moved his practice to a larger area, early 1990s, a house on the corner of Turnbull and McCulloch Street. Over the years, from the outset, Dad employed other accountants to assist with the influx of clients. In Dad's spare time, fishing and boating were huge passions, particularly taking his treasured Van Yander cruiser out on the Gippsland Lakes. Also enjoyed holidays and road trips, which was regularly accompanied by his favourite music. Loved the Looney Tunes character Bugs Bunny, and his passion for drawing, this saw him recreate many of these characters in their true funny style. Retirement saw Dad taking up golf, which he loved playing many rounds with his mates. Belonging to the Bensdale Masonic Lodge, Dad was a proud Freemasons member for over 60 years. Involved with the Ambulance Auxiliary for a number of years, donated his accountancy expertise to many charity and volunteer groups. Neighbourhood Watch was delivering pamphlets and a catch-up with other like-minded contributors and people in the district that were involved. Always enjoying the social aspects of everything he did. You'll continue to be our amazing Dad, Gladys, Harry, Bucky. You always put your heart and soul into everything you did with gusto and might. You loved life, you loved friends, you loved everyone, and most of all, you loved your family.
A life lesson. Graeme, you taught us respect and kindness, pride and self-worth, humour and humility. You were always so personable and engaging. These qualities would come to the fore when Graeme would walk into a room full of people. He would make the effort to talk to every person in that room. He would ask them about their story, tell them a story of his own, and would make them laugh and laugh with them over a pleasant and memorable chat. Graeme, you conducted yourself with such dignity and grace, always confident and self-assured. Your compassion and generosity was there if we sought a listening ear, or when advice or simple encouragement was needed. When hit with life's challenges, you always went in hard, tackling them with immense courage and determination. Your toughness and resilience shone through when facing what was to be your final challenge. You carried with you a guardian and angel in the form of tigers on this courageous journey. You fought tooth and nail, never once wavering or giving in, always positive, absolute. When the time came, you instructed the tigers to return to their post. There they wait, watching over us with your wisdom, your guidance, and your spirit, ready to carry on your legacy. All that you have taught us, Graeme, will be with us always.
Graeme Buckingham, aka Gladys. A man larger than life, full of amazing stories, a beautiful smile and a cheeky grin. Graeme loved his chats, loved meeting new people, always made you feel welcome, and loved having a cold beer with his mates. His favourite music consisted of Buddy Holly, The Big O, Benny King, Richie Valens, The Shadows, and Elvis Presley, to name a few. On one holiday, when Graeme and Elsa came to Batemans Bay, Graeme had learnt that the Soldiers Club was hosting an Elvis Presley night. He made sure to purchase tickets early in the day and was so excited to tell us
so he'd purchased tickets to the best seats in the house. That night, we all enjoyed a lovely dinner and dessert at the Seagulls restaurant, just across the road from the show. Whilst having our dessert, Graeme started to become toey and was telling us, hurry up, because he wanted to get to that Elvis Presley show, even though we still had plenty of time. Once we'd finished, paid the bill, we stepped outside and Graeme was off like a rocket, across the road in a flash, leaving us all behind. We eventually caught up with him inside the Soldiers Club and handed our tickets over to enter the show. We were then lent to our seats, Graeme looking back at us with his big smile, full of excitement and telling us we are going to be in the best seats of the house. Well, once we arrived at our seats and sat down, suddenly that smile disappeared from Graeme's face because our apparent best seats in the house had a huge column blocking our view to half the stage. It was quite funny. All was not lost as we ushered a staff member and luckily we were able to change seats with a better view. It was a wonderful night. Graeme loving the Elvis Presley show, and many years later we were able to have a good chuckle over the best seats of the house. Thank you, Graeme. Thank you, Graeme, for your wonderful life and the happiness and joy you brought to everyone. Around you. Keep telling those stories and jokes up above. Keep smiling with that cheeky grin. We'll miss you, mate. And from all of us.
Adios, amigos.
Toodly poops.
Well done. I've got to ask, Gladdy, where did that come from?
From Glad.
Okay, another story there. We'll leave that. Now, where we're up to after that one. It's time to pause for a moment, and we're going to listen to what I believe is just one of the ripper songs in our world. And it's a fella called Jimmy Little, and you may have heard of the Burleigh's version of Royal Telephone, but this is a true Aussies version. Royal Telephone by Jimmy Little. Bring back a memory that you have of Graeme. Thank you, Cal.
Telephone to glory, oh what joy divine. I can feel the current moving on the line. Made by God the Father for his very own. You may talk to Jesus on this royal telephone. Central's never busy, always on the line. You can hear from heaven almost any time. 'Tis a royal service built for one and all. When you get in trouble, give this royal line a call. Telephone to glory, oh what joy divine. I can feel the current moving on the line. Made by God the Father for his very own. You may talk to Jesus on this royal telephone. There will be no charges, telephone is free. It is built for service, just for you and me. There will be no waiting on this royal line. Telephone to glory always answers just in time. Telephone to glory, oh what joy divine. I can feel the current moving on the line. Made by God the Father for his very own. You may talk to Jesus on this royal telephone. Telephone to glory, oh what joy divine. I can feel the current moving on the line.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, once our tribute to Graeme is at an end, please, if you're able to, stay here with us in the chapel. You may have noticed, as I said earlier, that things are a bit awry. It's a special privilege for the girls to offer the catering here in the chapel once again. But if you're able to stay, please stay and share more memories. And speaking of memories, Ken White, crikey, talk about cutting things fine. Ken's just walked in the door. Come on, come up and share, please, if you're ready for it.
I'm not really sorry, I'm winging it a little bit, but appreciate you being sympathetic to me. So Ken White's my name. I'm actually an accountant. I suppose I'm in the same game as Bucky was. I met Bucky. Well, I suppose if I go back a little bit, there was a couple of qualities, I suppose, of Bucky's that come to mind, and I knew Bucky probably in sort of towards the last sort of couple of chapters of his life. And so the two qualities that came to mind this morning were, number one, resilience, and we use that word a lot these days. It gets thrown out a lot, and probably not in the greatest, not in the greatest way, I would suggest. But I think Bucky was genuinely resilient, both in his work, and also in regards to his own health, which I'll touch on that in a minute. And secondly, the other quality that came to my mind was he had the most eloquent use of the English language, which is something that I will butcher in the next few minutes here. So if you just bear with me with that. So in relation to resilience with work, I first met Bucky when I was just a young fella. I was 26, I think it was, and I just started in my own practice, and so I was doing the same sort of thing as Bucky was, and so I thought to myself, I was actually living at home with my parents and was desperate to get out of there, and so I thought to myself, well, I know this old bloke that's an accountant over in McCulloch Street, and I thought, I'll just go and see him and just see whether he might be interested in maybe selling his practice to me and retiring, and I could maybe buy because he operated in a house, and I thought, I might be able to buy the house as well, and sort of hit two birds with the one stone. I can get out of mum's wing and sort of build my business sort of thing. Well, I met Bucky, and I think it was about 6 stubbies later. There was no agreement. He was actually most offended that I would even ask him whether he was retiring, and I think he may have been in his mid-60s at the time, and so we did strike up a bit of a friendship, and from then on we sort of shared, Bucky, as I continued to grow my own practice, we sort of shared plenty of stuff, and he came down and joined us with our professional development type stuff for many years after that, and until ultimately Bucky did retire. Elsie, you might have to correct me, was he 82? I think he was. So he finally retired at 82. I can rest assured that I don't think I will have the same resilience. I think I'll be well and truly cooked before then. And so he showed genuine resilience in his work. So in relation to his health, resilience that way, I mean, the last few weeks has been challenging, obviously for Bucky and Elsa and family, but he was sort of a cat with 9 lives, is probably fair to say. Is that so I have a letter here which Bucky wrote back in 2001, so 25 years ago, which he wrote to his surgeon David Webb in Melbourne. If you just bear with me, I'll read it to you. I'll try not to butcher it too much. Our grateful thanks for all your jolly good work, again respect for the English language, good on you Bucky, for your jolly good work with respect to the above procedure, especially the great news that you have stopped the Spanish dancer kicking her heels up. Would it be possible to have a copy of the pathology report, just for our records? Yourself, Dr. Chan and Dr. McClellan certainly have the ability to reinforce the existing unwavering confidence that I've had from the outset. Thank you. All is progressing as planned. I'm absolutely positive that the waterworks will be back to normal in no time at all. Whilst resident in a 5-star hospital, there was the most sudden development in my well-being. The RSL had yours truly paying the supreme sacrifice while serving on the Cotham Hospital ship. Refer to the attached copy from the RSL State Journal, veiled deceased members. He's listed there. I'm sure he shared this with plenty of people over the journey. So the President telephoned us last Friday with profound apologies. I just laughed it off, saying there was no value in getting involved with death, as it was not quite what it was cracked up to be, and would continue to duck and weave to avoid it. Quoted Mark Twain, "Rumours of my death are grossly exaggerated." The President announced after stand 2 on Friday that I was alive and well, although the writer was not on parade to confirm this. A few knew of the impending surgery, so after the notice was published, their switchboard was rather active. More importantly, I mentioned that we had a highly professional and determined medical and nursing team that just don't let things like that happen against the rules, plus one must maintain a good batting average. How did it happen? Well, one of the office staff was updating records and inadvertently checked the deceased box on the form and sent it off to head office. Just ever so easy to be written off. Yet further evidence that the pen is mightier than the sword. Elsa, my darling wife, was at first upset, but then said, well, perhaps we might score some flowers out of it. told a friend this, and she said pot plants would be much better. Have come up with the idea of a wake with the deceased member present as living proof, all provided by the RSL as compensation. David and yourself, Mark, would be keynote speakers, of course, talking on pain management using Guinness and Scotch and biting the leather belt, with the highlight being resurrection without releasing any professional secrets. Thought you might get a good old laugh out of this one. So you get a fair indication there from that letter about Bucky's grasp of the English language, which you guys all know better than I do, and in relation to his resilience on his own health. That was way back in 2001. So thank you for letting me share that with you.
Thanks, Kate.
No worries.
Ladies and gentlemen. And you've done amazingly to be here to share that. Thanks, Kate. Come on, Terry.
Good morning, everybody. Elsa asked me to say a few words, just, remembering my time with Graeme over the years. And I first met him back in 1963. I'd come to Bairnsdale in the bank, working here, and I was boarding in the Orient Hotel, which is now the Mitchell River Tavern. And Graeme was one of their best customers, and I'd see him almost every evening at the pub, you know. And he had his parents were living in Bairnsdale, at the time, and he offered to give me a lift up there on a weekend because my parents were there as well. I didn't have a car, and he had a little Volkswagen buggy, if I remember rightly. And so off we go, and on the way up, something came up about golf. And he said, oh, we should have a game of golf tomorrow. So anyway, he picked me up the following day, and we went to the golf club. And the people had just hit off on the first for a competition. So we ducked over to the 10th. We thought we'd just play 9 holes over there. And I hit off first, and then it was Graham's turn. And Graeme, the whole time he was getting organised and put the ball on the tee and everything, never shut up. Yak, 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 yak. And he swung the golf club, and he was still talking. And he missed. So, still talking, he lines up again, and has another swing. And he missed. So, I think I gave up trying to keep a straight face by about the 6th swing. And you know, when you're playing golf, you've got to be a little bit serious, and you can't laugh at anyone. Well, this was really getting hard to not laugh. I don't remember anyone else having 2 areas consecutively, let alone this many. And he never stopped talking the whole time. I turned away after about the 6th swing, and he said, "Oh, I almost got it that time." He finally hit the ball on the 10th swing, but I never saw it. I had so many tears in my eyes. I said, "Where'd the ball go?" He said, "Over the fence and out of bounds." Anyway, somehow or other we finished the 9, and towards the end he was hitting the ball quite often, more than he missed. And I think that's my favourite memory of Graeme. And years later he got keen on golf, and he used to ring me up sometimes and ask for a tip. He never took any notice of the tips though. Anyway, that same weekend, we're going home on a Sunday, and he came and picked me up home. He had an extremely black eye. And apparently his parents had produced a bottle of champagne. And while he had trouble keeping his eye on a golf ball, he had no trouble keeping his eye on the cork that came out of the champagne bottle. It was a shocker. And I don't know how he even drove home. So anyway, we managed to get home. Well, about 3 years later, Graeme coerced a few of us into starting a pistol club in Venezuela. And our inaugural meeting was at the Orient Hotel. And he was duly elected president. And me being a bank teller, I was elected unopposed as a treasurer. I still remember that. Anyway, we saved up, got some money, and we bought I think it was a pistol, single-shot pistol called Druloff. And we had another one, which was a Ruger, not to be confused with Luger. We had these 2 guns. And we went out to the aerodrome and had a bit of a practice shot. There was probably about a dozen of us, I guess. And that was it for me, because I got transferred away from Bensdale and never got to really have a proper shot at the pistol club. So yeah, someone was saying about the pistol club. Well, that was, from my memory, that was early 1965. Sorry, that's how long ago that was. Sandra and I came back to Venezuela, or to the area, in 1986 and caught up with Graeme again after 20 years away. And we resumed our friendship and had many lunches and Christmas dinners with Graeme and Elsa over the years. I think he probably had shares in Carlton and United and Guinness, and he was trying to make sure he was getting a good dividend every year. He enjoyed boating and fishing, and in later years he took up golf, as I mentioned before. I did have an occasion to play 9 holes with him at Bensdale not that long ago. It was going to be 18 holes, but he talked that much we could only play 9. All in all, I found Graeme to be a good bloke, trustworthy, loyal, talkative and jovial. He lived a good life. He was successful in business. He made friends readily and enjoyed a social life. He stoically fought long and difficult medical issues over many years, but eventually succumbed. He leaves a wonderful wife, 2 lovely daughters and their husbands, and Lenny the dog. Graeme, I heard on the grapevine that St Peter will let you in just to shut you up. It's been good knowing you. Now it's time for the reading. Jesus said to his disciples, don't be worried. Have faith in God and have faith in me. There are many rooms in my Father's house. I wouldn't tell you this unless it was true. I'm going there to prepare a place for each of you. After I have done this, I will come back and take you with me. Then we'll be together. You know the way to where I'm going. Thomas said, Lord, we don't even know where you're going. How can we know the way? I am the way, the truth, and the life, Jesus answered. Without me, no one can go to the Father. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Thank you, Terry. Mr. Ron Thaxton, the Worshipful Master of Union Lodge, and Mr. Joe Lawrence, past Worshipful Master of Union Lodge. Chaps, do you want to come up, please?
Welcome everybody. I'm Joe, that's Ron, the Worshipful Master. Just before we start, I rang Elsa last week saying that we would have loved to have done this ceremony for Graeme, and I said to Elsa that I'd never ever met the man. Anyway, I rang our secretary later on, and he said, "Of course you met him." And I said, "When?" He said, "Well, 2 years ago when we went round to the house and presented him with his 60-year jewel, beautiful jewel." And Brooksy, the secretary, said it was a good day, and it was a great day sitting there talking to him and drinking cups of tea, and the wonderful house. It was a good day. So that's our memories of Graeme. So we'll just go a little bit further. So this is the Masonic part for Graeme, which we're so proud to present. Just bear with me. Brethren, the great architect of the universe, having been pleased in his infinite wisdom to remove our brother, Graeme Buckingham, from the cares and troubles of this transitory life, may we who survive him be more firmly united in the bonds of brotherhood and in the service of God and our fellow men. The passing of our brother conveys a powerful appeal to our hearts, reminding us, as it does, of the uncertainty of life, of the vanity of earthly hopes and desires. For what are all the externals of human dignity, the power of wealth, the dreams of ambition, the pride of intellect, or the charms of beauty when our mortal life has ended? In death all ranks are levelled, all distinctions are done away. Here the sceptre of the prince and the staff of the beggar are laid side by side. Thus, in humble dependence upon the mercy of the Most High, we may hope when our earthly life shall have passed away to rejoin our departed brother in the grand lodge above, where the world's great architect lives and reigns forever. Apron. The lambskin or white apron is the emblem of innocence and the badge of a mason, or it is more ancient than the golden fleece or Roman eagle, more honourable than the garter when worthily worn. The emblem is now deposited where the earthly remains of our brother rest. The evergreen. This evergreen, which once marked the resting place of our illustrious dead, is the emblem of our faith in immortality of the soul. This too we deposit on the apron. By it we are reminded that we have an immortal part within us which shall never, never die. Through our faith in the mercy of God, we believe that our souls will bloom in external spring. Here we leave the earthly remains of our brother, and in humble confidence we commend his immortal spirit into the care of our God, who is the greater creator, preserver of all mankind. Thus, supported, we cherish our brother's memory whilst we commend his spirit to thee who gave it and consigned his body to the earth. Brethren, you will now move in possession and severally drop a sprig of evergreen on the place where the remains of our departed brother rest. So mote it be.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, brethren. When Chris was up here before, he spoke of shadows, he spoke of the big O, and he spoke of who else, Chris? Oh, Peter. Peter's going, Peter. Sorry, Pete. Who did we speak of? Benny King. Yeah. Yes. Well, after all that, we're going to listen to the Shadows' beautiful guitar work, and it's called Wonderful Land. This was one of Graham's favourites. Thank you, Cal. Sorry, Pete. That's beautiful guitar work. But don't know about each of you, but it takes me back to the early 60s. I'm only a wee fella then, but the sound is straight to the heart from the 60s. It's time to say farewell to Graeme, but very much only his earthly body. Everything we've heard this morning, all the memories, they remain. He lived his life to the full. He lived it with warmth, he lived it with hard work, he lived with the things in his life, his family, his Elsa, his cars, his boats, his beers, his eternal talking, and his resilience camp, 2001, that letter. So things were in balance then. Thank you all for being here this morning. So honour this fella. Take him in your hearts, and he remains there. Tell the yarns, tell the yarns. We wish you peace, Graeme. If you feel that you'd like to, please join with me in the words of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And our time of committal. Let us now commit Graeme's body for cremation. And in doing so, we acknowledge that we come into this world with nothing, and we depart with nothing. However, the wonder of our time on this earth is that we leave behind warm, enduring memories to mark our years and to sustain those left behind. For those of you who, like Graeme, may memories be your comfort. For those of you who loved him, may you hold a sacred place in your hearts and a knowing smile on your lips. Rest peacefully, Graeme. And there's only really one song now, it's not the Essendon Footy Club song. The way this man has lived his life, it's got to be a little bit of Blue Eyes, hasn't it? Old Blue Eyes. I did it my way. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you're able to, stay here and enjoy more memories. Thank you, Cal.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway. More, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there not here.